And again, it goes back to control over the remains. And, you know, my old standby was, you want to see, look, I'm sorry for your loss. You want to see your loved one's remains, go ahead and make funeral arrangements. But at this point in time, we cannot allow you to have access to the body because I've seen.
This is reminiscent to me, like when you think about the length of time between, you know, 1240 maybe when he's, or I'm sorry, like 140 when he's pronounced dead and 757 when the body actually leaves. I keep thinking Princess Diana in my head because Princess Diana, they left her body in there and had people coming in and out for hours and hours and hours. And then I think like the Prince Charles flew in and eventually they then took possession of the body. And we know there's a lot of sketchy questions about like, well, what the fuck? What was the people talk about like that small part in her heart is actually what caused the death, but was there other information we could have gleaned? Did anyone fuck with the body? Like same kind of thing. It just seems like, again, you said earlier, you want to treat every case at the same standard. Every life is supposed to be, every single time is supposed to be treated in a perfect way so that nothing is fucked with. But especially when it's something like this, you would think chain of custody and the speed and efficiency of that would be top of mind because of how public this was.
Yes. Yeah. And it would be palpable.
Right.
Like you would understand what you're in the middle of, and that any delay that you take is going to be viewed poorly. If you have redirected your path from whatever your standard operating procedure is. Now, I don't know what their standard, because everybody's is different, all right? But I know with the national standard, which I was one of the people that helped create, you know, the national standard for medical legal death investigator.
You did?
Yeah. I was part of the original Milwaukee task force. Yeah.
Flex right there. Oh, boy.
Yeah. Boy. Yeah. That and, I don't know, $2.30 will get me a cup of coffee at Waffle House.
That's right.
So you want to be as timely as possible, get control over those remains as soon as you can. And people think that it sounds very cold and callous because, well, aren't you going to let the family see the body? No, I'm not.
Is it unusual to let the family see the body that quickly?
Well, the problem is that before the medical examiner gets there many times, the social workers at the hospital get involved, and you have to have your grieving moment. Well, the grieving moment is not going to help you when you're trying to process evidence.
Right.
And the grieving moment is always trumped by evidentiary value, period.
So is it unusual or just not desirable?
It's not desirable. It's not desirable at all. It would be, I'd have a conversation with somebody if I was a supervisor.
So let's take her at her word. Let's assume, I don't know how safe that is to take Erica Kirk at her word, but let's assume she's being accurate, that the body was still warm or at least not on ice when she saw him around 4 o'clock. We know the body then didn't leave the hospital before 4 o'clock. The earliest it could have left is sometime after that. But then we see the procession at 8 o'clock, and most people assume that's when the body left. If it arrives at the medical examiner's office, well, let's go back one step further.
Sure.
So after she sees the body at 4, if it doesn't leave to 8, where's it go from then? Is there a medical examiner examining on site?
Yeah, there could be. I've gone into emergency rooms as an investigator for years and conducted my initial examination in the emergency room. And I actually kind of treat the little treatment area as kind of a tertiary scene, I guess, where I will photograph the body on the gurney or on the stretcher that they have in there, because most of these emergency rooms, you're going to run a code in there. It's not like a regular stretcher. It's, you know, a treatment bed. And I'm going to make my observations. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring my own bags to bag the hands.
And how long does that take?
As long as I want it to take, or as long as, well, I don't have to do it anymore, but as long as my colleagues deem necessary. And
what would be the maximum amount of time something like that might take? If you
it all depends on your travel time from point A to point B.
Okay.
I've always practiced in big metropolitan areas.
Well, we know they were there no later than 5. Like we know by 5 they were there.
Yeah, you should, once you're notified, and it would be the charge nurse at the emergency room that would call the ME, the on duty whoever it is at the ME's office, say, look, and this is the way the conversation generally goes. This emergency room at such and such hospital, we have a homicide victim we need to tell you about. And generally, if I hear homicide, I'm saying, say no more. Let me grab my bag. I'm getting in my vehicle and I'm beating feet there. I'm getting there as quickly as I possibly can. And I will expressly say, don't let anybody near that body, period. And I will probably, if it's a homicide, I am going to call the investigators that will be assigned to that case, because you know who's coming up next in the rotation. So you got the ME and the police investigator converging on that one spot, and you begin to coordinate and have a conversation with one another. And, which is cool, because if you've got anybody in the hospital that's on staff and they're trying to get cakey with you in any way about anything regarding what needs to be done with the body, that conversation is going to end really, really quickly. And again, it goes back to control over the remains. And, you know, my old standby was, you want to see, look, I'm sorry for your loss. You want to see your loved one's remains. Go ahead and make funeral arrangements. But at this point in time, we cannot allow you to have access to the body, because I've seen, you would not believe the things I've seen families do with bodies when they're standing over bodies, hugging, grabbing, pulling, taking things off of, and screaming and pulling their hair out and everything else. And that's it's a normal reaction. I understand that. But from an evidentiary standpoint, it's a nightmare.
That's right.
So let's say let's just follow the timeline. It's 5 o'clock. The body's still warm because she said it was warm at 4, so we assume it's still warm at 5. We see the train leave at 8, so we can assume perhaps the medical examiner did some sort of cursory examination at the scene, took an hour or 2, maybe 3, packed the body up, get it ready to go, and get it out of there. It arrives in Taylorsville at 8:30 or 8:45, we're guessing. Do you start cooling the body at that point? What do you do?
No, you don't have to cool the body at all. You're already in a controlled environment. I'm making phone calls at this point.
Who are you calling?
If I'm calling the autopsy technician that's on duty, and if it's if they have a senior morgue supervisor, I'm calling that person. Look, we've got to get this done. We got to get it done now. And I say, what I'm saying is the chief medical examiner has probably been notified for the state. Whoever the prosector, that is the deputy medical examiner that's on duty, they're rushing there to their facility, and they're getting suited up. They're going to rock and roll right then. If you've got a separate x-ray tech, calling them. I'm coordinating with the police. You got detectives. We're going to start in an hour. Have your representative here. Then get there now.
And is that the rush on any homicide, or is that just because it's Charlie Kirk?
That would be Charlie Kirk.
Okay.
And because I've done cases on high-profile cases. 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
You know, and
but not Jim Bob down the road. He waits till 8 a.m.
Like one case in particular comes to mind, was a serial homicide event, and we suspected that case that we had. There's been others as well, and particularly if you get a mass fatality event, you don't dictate what time it's happening. The event dictates the time to you, and if they're being pressured in any way whatsoever, they'll respond not by saying something to somebody. They're going to say, we need to go ahead and get on this and get everything collected. We need to get and go through the entire procedure as expeditiously as we possibly can.
So if he let's say he arrives at 8:30, best case scenario for the timeline.
Yep.
At what point do you think it starts? What time are we? And by starts, I mean, you tell me what's the first step, but what time does that first step take place?
Yeah. So first step you're going to do is you're going to take, first off, the body will be it'll go into intake, and it will be assigned an accession number, which is that listed number that you're given. Everybody's given an accession number that comes through the medical examiner or the coroner's office. So that number becomes the name. The name becomes the number. So that's how you're going to be identified. And that's essential because every bit of evidence that's collected off the body is going to be tracked by the medical examiner accession number. The police will have a separate case number. All right. So
Why?
It's because the medical legal community handles 10 times more deaths than the police do. And they're doing other stuff like burglaries and all that stuff. And they have individual case numbers for that. We deal only with dead. So we've got naturals, self-harm, accidents, unexplained deaths, other homicides.
Okay.
And each one of those gets a unique number that is unique to that individual.
So it goes to intake and get the number. How long does that take?
Not long. It'll roll right up. And now in the digital world, and they'll begin to print out labels.
Well, how long does it take to get them from the car that's arrived at 8:30 onto the table to get the number?
As quick as you can get it through the door.
You just rolling it in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And here's one other thing that I forgot to mention that is part and parcel. There's 3 things that we do in the medical legal world. We determine manner of death. There are 5. We've talked about that before. The cause of death. We also determine ID. So, and it seems kind of a passé kind of thing, but it's important to understand because you have to document how you got this individual ID. And I know that many people out there say, oh, this is Charlie Kirk. Okay, cool. I'm glad that it is. How do we get him identified? And there will have to be, and when you look at documentation from a medical examiner's office, there is a place on there where it says, how was this individual identified? So who specifically identified him? And you'll have a name that
say wife or something.
Yeah. It'll say wife, and it'll specifically name, or it could be, one of the people on the security team. They positively identified them, and so that's part of the process that has to be documented. There'll also be fingerprints that are done. Now, many cases, it all depends upon the office. If his hands are bagged, which I hope they were, that would follow the autopsy. So you roll prints after that. Everybody gets a print rolled that comes through the medical examiner's office. I don't care if it's an 80-year-old granny. It doesn't matter. They're going to have a print rolled. But I digress. So once the number has been given and assigned, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take what's called a slap shot, which is where there will be an identifying photograph where you'll take. Some medical examiners will have a camera in the ceiling, and you take the gurney and you push it beneath the camera, and you'll see a television screen. You'll get it lined up like that, and they'll take a facial shot. All right. Then the next step is going to be going to whatever X-ray apparatus you have, right? That's going to be essential because if doing an autopsy, we've learned, particularly one that involves firearms, if you don't do X-rays, it's like taking a trip without a map and you don't know where you're going. So the X-ray is paramount. You have to get X-ray shot. They'll do APs and they'll do laterals just like they do on us, when we go to the hospital, but you have to manipulate you have to hold everything for the film, and
but it gives you some sort of a 3-dimensional understanding of where stuff is.
You develop that really quickly, and that way you can put it up on a light board and see it. Now, some facilities actually have access to even more robust. God, I love that word for some reason. CTs, for instance, they can, and this has happened. I think they did like Gabby Petito, the little girl they CT'd her body. So it all depends on what your department has access to. And everything that you document before you ever start the procedure itself is key, Baron.
And are you taking pictures all along the way here of each step?
Yeah. And so there'll be a morgue photographer, and you'll also have a crime scene person that comes from the police department that will take their photographs as well.
How long is everything you've been describing so far? What kind of timeline are we talking about if we do all of it?
It all depends on how many injuries you have, and it also understand that the physician that is in the suite, in the autopsy suite, they are the master and commander in there. So whatever they want, they're going to get. And if they want 1,000 images or 10, that's what they're going to get, and they're going to do it from various depths. Like, let's just say we've got a gunshot wound to the neck. Okay, so you would take an image without scale that will kind of give you the perspective of the neck, okay? And then you'll take one with scale. Then you'll come in at an intermediate range, all right, where you still have, like if you're doing it in profile, if people will feel where their Adam's apple is, and it's positioned like this, you still want to have this visualized in there. So if you've got a jury, they can say, oh, okay, that's the Adam's apple. Then you take with scale, without scale, and then you come in to do a micro shot where you're going to do with scale, without scale, and you'll do it from a couple of perspectives. You'll do it straight on, and this is such if we're talking about a wound that's right here, you'll get it from this perspective, and you'll step over here and take another one from this perspective, and maybe even lean over the body like this, going north and south and taking it here, here, and here, so that you have these 3 points of view, okay? Right. It all depends on, what the medical examiner is asking for. Mm-hmm. And then you've got all these camera people that are kind of bouncing around.
Thank you guys for watching the episode. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and smash that like button on the video. They're both a huge, huge help. And if you would like to follow me on Instagram and X, those links are in my description below.